Order, order. Paul Scully to move the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Moon. I'd like to move that this House has considered Petition 200165 relating to leaving the European Union. I'll just quickly read into the records the full prayer, if I may. It says, leave the EU immediately. The government should walk away from Article 50 negotiations and leave the EU immediately with no deal. The EU looks set to offer us a punishment deal out of spite. Why wait another 18 months when we could leave right away and fully take back control of our country, lawmaking powers and borders? The EU looks set to offer us a punishment deal out of spite. Instead, we pay tens of billions of pounds as part of a settlement fee and continue to accept the jurisdiction of EU courts even after we've left. Meanwhile, pro-EU MPs in Labour, the Lib Dems and the SNP, along with unelected lords, are attempting to block Brexit. The longer we remain a member, the more opportunity they have to interfere. Why wait almost another 2 years when we could just leave right away? Mrs. Moon, I think we've got two firsts. Can I say it's a delight to serve under your chairmanship for the first time, I think, in my time as the Petitions Committee member. And I welcome my honourable friend, the Minister, to her place. She's doing a fantastic job. I'm delighted to see her be promoted to her place. And I know she's going to do a fantastic job in this important time. The petition, we've debated a number of petitions now about the EU. I think I've become the EU specialist in the petitions department, mainly because I can grab hold of it and can speak about Brexit till the cows come home, I think. But nonetheless, there is still an appetite for this because there are 137,542 signatures for this petition last time I looked. And if you look at the spread of where those signatures have come from, the highest constituencies seem to be around Kent, in Lincolnshire, the Isle of Wight, Clacton and some of the Cornish seats as well. And I can understand why people feel this way. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I can understand why they feel this way. I actually voted for the referendum party in '97. I joined the Conservative Party 2 weeks later, when I saw the error of my ways, having held it in Tony Blair and a Lib Dem into Sutton. So it's been my recourse to actually try and rectify the local matter and the Conservative majority, but also to leave the EU. But having had that 20-odd year desire to leave the EU, it's absolutely right that we do it in the best way possible, that works for absolutely everybody. But when I was looking at and speaking in various debates and panels on the referendum, I could just see this real disjoint between and people that were just felt set aside from the whole debate. So there are actually some people around the country that would, frankly, happy to see themselves get a little poorer in order for the long-term view. Again, I don't see that as being the right view. But nonetheless, we have to accept there are people out there that feel so passionate about this, that feel the urgency to leave the EU, that they want to do it immediately. And until we recognise that, we're never going to heal the divide. We're never going to settle the uncertainty that is whipped up by both sides of the debate.
Very particular point. 190 people in St Albans signed this, which is a minuscule amount. But can I say I agree with him? Why on earth would this petition call for all negotiations to stop now when we're nowhere near reaching the deal and it just assumes that we won't get one? I think it's very defeatist. I think he's absolutely right. We should use every day to make sure we get a deal.
I would just challenge, first of all, the language, crashing out. It goes back to what I was saying about a sense of optimism. As I'll say a little bit later on, I think we absolutely are right to be planning for a no deal, because it's painfully ridiculous if we do not have every avenue covered as we seek to build our relationship with the rest of the EU. But the idea that we crash out suggests no planning at all, and I just don't share that pessimism of that. In terms of the 10% deal on cars, it's a strong argument as to why we do need to do a deal, and why other countries like Germany, who sell 10% of their cars to us, would be wanting to do a deal with us. But we can set our tariffs as we see fit, whether that's 10% or not, should we leave without a deal. But then we'd have to treat that tariff equally with other countries unless we have a free trade agreement with them.
I know that a few colleagues have flirted with the idea of WTO terms. or leaving the European Union without a deal, but I don't believe that any of them would advocate doing so without even attempting to strike an agreement with our European partners.
I mean, I don't think anyone could think this is a good idea, even if you're an ardent leaver, to just sort of pull the plug on these negotiations and I don't know, cut the cord, all these expressions, put up the white flag, exit the stage, throw in the towel at this stage when negotiations are underway. And my constituent Reuben Kenton-Harris, whose opinion I trust on these things, who's also an intern for this term in my office as part of his degree, has also said he can't understand why anyone would ever sign this petition. It makes no sense at all, because if you're going to jump out of a plane, surely it's best to have a parachute. And if you go onto these WTO terms with no say whatsoever, it just seems completely suicidal.
People felt forgotten. And it wasn't just the EU was the target of the day, but they felt forgotten by this place, they felt forgotten by their local councils, by the devolved administrations. They felt they weren't getting the right level of focus. And I think through that, and through the lack of engagement from the EU, as we all know, it hasn't been a perfect institution. In fact, even President Macron admitted just at the weekend that France would probably vote to leave were open to put to an open referendum. So even prime European leaders recognise there are faults. But it's something that hopefully in time will evolve, and even from a distance I hope we can still contribute and be part of a positive contribution. But I think, as I was saying, this is really a time for a bit more unity and a little less division. And what I would say to colleagues across the House, when they're talking about what kind of Britain we want to make when we leave the EU, I hope we can start to update our invective and move away from references from the kind of 17th and 18th century and start talking more about the 21st century. I think I want a little less Sir Francis Drake and a little bit more Sir Stephen Hawking.
But if we have to leave, then we have to get the best possible terms for the United Kingdom. We have to be as close to the centre of Europe, as close to the centre of its trade, part of its trade. We have to be in the customs union. We have to be in the single market. We have to do what is best for the people of this country.
And I campaigned to leave the European Union. And despite our campaign having to battle the beast of the Scottish political establishment, we still managed to achieve over 1 million Leave votes. And it's far too often, and to my frustration, that these Leave voters are somehow airbrushed out of the picture altogether in Scotland, projecting Scotland as somehow Europhile, Euro-centric, and keen on further integration with Europe, because that's just not the case. And it's to my disappointment that the Minister for Leaving the European Union in the Scottish Parliament went to Brussels to tell an event that 5 million Scots voted to remain. That's just not the case. The picture is different to how it's often portrayed. And actually, Scottish attitudes are very similar to the rest of the United Kingdom. And you just had to see the social attitude survey merely a couple of weeks ago to see that when it comes to leaving the single market, Scots are in line with the rest of the UK, and they want to leave the single market. No, I'd like to make some more progress, thank you, but I will take interventions. And also in relation to immigration, we love to see that remain at a UK level and don't want to see divergence.
I'm a bit concerned if one of the benefits of Brexit is that we go back to being what he described as, quote, a buccaneering maritime trading nation, close quotes. Buccaneers were the state-sponsored international terrorists of their day. The fact that we can hark back even jokingly to days when part of Britain's power as a trading nation was founded on piracy, on theft, on murder and similar crimes, is maybe an indication of how we got into the state that we're in just now. Because there is a tendency, certainly in sections of the right-wing media and in sections of the right-wing Conservative Party, to build up the wonderful days of the Empire, that everything was wonderful. And can't we just go back to the days when Britannia ruled the waves and waved the rules and everything will be fine? Well, no, we can't. Because there's 6.5, 7 billion people on the other side of the water who are saying, no, this is our country. You're not getting to run India or Pakistan or Kenya in the interests of a handful of British businesses the way they did before. Happily, yeah.
No, it's absolutely fine. I've been called much worse, Mrs. Wood. Please forgive me, I may be wrong, but I don't think I heard anybody in this chamber today or in the House of Commons or anywhere saying that we should go back to the days when we were ruling India or ruling the waves or taking back the empire. This is simply not what we're debating here this afternoon.
Peter Grant.
Perhaps I've misunderstood what a buccaneering maritime trading nation was, or which period in history it referred to, and if so, then I'm quite happy to apologise. But the days of the buccaneers were the days of international pirates and terrorists, sponsored by businesses in one country to effectively terrorise the interests of other countries.
I fundamentally disagree with the petition. It won't surprise anybody to know. Just the very, very first line says that we should walk away from our Article 50 negotiations and leave the EU immediately with no deal. So we've agreed to take part in negotiations as we accepted we would when we triggered Article 50, and then we say we're going to walk away and we're not going to complete that task. And I don't think, and clearly nobody here believes, that that would be the right thing for the United Kingdom to do. And I speak as somebody, I campaigned for Remain. We all seem to have to tell our little Brexit biography when we get up and make these speeches. I campaigned for Remain. My constituency voted 56% to leave. And to be completely honest with you about this, that did cause me to have to reflect, to have to think, and have to listen incredibly hard to my constituents, to what it was that they were telling me through that vote and what it was they expected me to do about it. Now, having promised throughout the campaign that I would honour, respect, abide by the outcome of the referendum, that is what I intend to do, and that is what I have done through triggering Article 50 and the process subsequently. But the listening, it's two-way. And what I've had to explain to my constituents is that this is going to be a process. It's going to take far longer and use up far much more energy than I think any of us would really like, but it needs that energy, that focus and that attention from Parliament and from the government in order to get a good deal. Now, I have days when I pretty much feel like, oh my goodness, why are we doing this? You want it to stop. I think the public are bored with a lot of this, if I'm honest. And there was a time when it was the first thing that people spoke about. It was the topic of heated conversation down the pub. I think for many people that is declining now. And I think since the general election, the debate is moving on. And there is a growing acceptance that Brexit is going to happen. But I think that makes the responsibility all the more keenly felt by us that we must deliver a deal that is worthy of our country.
And I pay tribute to my honourable friend, the member for Sutton and Sheen, for leading the debate on whether the UK should leave the EU immediately. He's done that on behalf of the Petitions Committee. But I must say that I very much enjoyed listening to his contribution and that of many honourable members today. He has been a passionate campaigner for Brexit for many years, and I applaud the sensible, pragmatic and optimistic message that he voiced and set out today, one that has been echoed by many members who took part in the debate. And I was particularly struck, Mr. Hanson, by the chord of unity and agreement and the consensus that very much emerged from this debate. People who took opposing sides on the referendum debate, members from all over the country, from different political parties. There has been a total consensus here that the UK should not walk away from the negotiations now and should continue to build on the progress that has been achieved and work towards seeking that new, dynamic relationship with the EU through an agreement. And I share that optimism and pragmatism that has been expressed today by many members. I also share the call for unity which has been expressed by many honourable members today, particularly my honourable friend, the member for South Ockle and Perthshire, a unity that unites all of us behind a shared vision of a Britain of the future, one that is global, that is open, that is dynamic and prosperous. But Mr. Hanson, combined with that optimism and with that call for unity is a shared request for a shared acknowledgement of the need for patience.
Whilst I'm counting down the days now for the 29th of March 2019 that we do leave, it's important that we concentrate on getting this right, getting the best bespoke deal that we can. So I ask those petitioners to make sure they stay with us, to remain patient, to talk up our abilities as a country and our economy, to believe in Britain, and to know that our best days are ahead of us. Thank you.